JD, all right, I've got your work up here. Looks like you did some work on it. That's fantastic. I wanted to get to your writing. Let's go ahead and address this. Recommendations against family and alcohol. Yeah, it's just pretty much how this country is with political correctness, etc. So I don't want to see you put something in your portfolio that might be considered to be questionable. And that's the reason I mentioned this. So I'm glad you understand. That's fantastic. Just to play it safe, let's just go ahead and change that masked image. I would think, unless you feel differently, we can go ahead and consider changing that. I mentioned moving the masked image down to the bottom. Not sure or where exactly that would look. Right now, just go over to the course announcements and take a look at all of those examples that I posted way back during week one. That's why they're there. They're there for you. I mean, I tried to get a different array of or a different combination of elements common to what might be found in student ads. So just go ahead and take a look. You should get a really good idea there. Now, there's a couple of issues with your ad. Actually, you know what? I did want to continue to address your writing. You mentioned moving the mask down to the bottom. Anyways, as I was saying, if you take a look at those examples, you'll see a lot of times the masked image was reduced and placed towards the bottom and kind of used to create a connection between the promotional offering and the image itself. Do you see what I'm saying? So if the promotional offer was canoeing, there would be like a little canoe scene down here. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what I was talking about, reducing it and bringing it down to the bottom. And I still think this is really large, and it creates this negative space right here, which is problematic. It just isolates this area completely from the rest of the ad. So a couple of options here you could do is you could reduce the size of this and just maybe play it right around here or so it's not such a prominent part of the bottom of the ad. Or you could change the masked image altogether. Your call. There's a couple of other elements that will come into play here, and I want to talk about that as well. But let's go back and moving the masked image. Talking about definitely consider other photo options. Typography. Okay, this is really critical, Jay. This is a really critical point where we're at right now because right now you're understanding the techniques, right? So you're gathering, you're working on your proficiency in terms of technical execution of the techniques that are associated with the magazine campaign, part of the campaign, I should say. So right now, we got to kind of circle back and say, okay, what have I learned right now, and what would I do differently if I were to start this project over again? And I would say that at this point, I would hope that 10 out of 10 students in the class would say, well, I would be much, much more conscientious of how I choose my images. That's exactly what we're after. It's all about being able to have the foresight to take a look at the image and understanding the versatility of that image or how usable that image is. The problem that we're having with this ad right now is this portion of the image right here. It's very, very, very textured. There's got a lot of color variations here, a lot of hue, value elements here. I mean, it's just really chock full of texture and visual elements and changes in the tonal properties. That said, that is a condition that exists in an image that is very, very, very difficult to work with. Not all images are suitable for type. That's the takeaway here. And as a designer, we need to be able to take a look at an image at the beginning of the project and say, hey, this will work, or say, hey, this won't work. What's happening here, let me describe what's happening here. So the image itself is kind of, we're kind of almost losing a whole quarter of the ad based on the image in this negative space. So, and then we're also losing a whole portion of the ad over here. And what we have here subsequently is the reason the reason this text here doesn't feel right to you is because it's squished in over to the left third of the page. So instead of creating harmony, visual harmony by placing the text over the image, you're using the image to force the text into a negative area, and that's very much obvious here. It creates an uncomfortable visual tension, and it's not what we call very versatile. So my recommendation here would be, of course, to find a different background image. as well as a different mass image. And again, you're showing great proficiency, so you should be able to swap these images out, no problem. Now, here's the where we're at right now. Are you showing proficiency? Absolutely. You're showing outstanding technical proficiency. You're showing excellence in everything needed. So will this grade well? Absolutely, it will grade well. Will it play well in a student portfolio? Not so much. And those are the reasons why. And that's what I'm after. I teach towards portfolio. I always teach towards portfolio because I want students to be able to come out of the class with a tangible artifact for which they can apply to their portfolio. So that's my end game. Some other instructors might be a little different in saying, well, the end game is just getting the technique down, and then it's incumbent upon the student to be able to apply that technique to something that would be forthcoming in a student portfolio. Whereas I think it's a little bit more clear to say, hey, let's craft this towards portfolio instead of crafting this and then leaving it on you later on to go back and try to craft something that would be suitable for a portfolio. I hope that makes sense. That's what I'm after. Okay, and that's why I'm commenting the way that I am. So those are my recommendations moving into final portfolio. Go ahead and take a look at the weight distribution of those examples. You're not going to find anywhere the type is forced into little negative areas. You're going to find in all of the examples, and one of the reasons I picked all those examples is you're going to find wonderful synergy between type and image in all of those examples. And that's what we're after. Now, if you elect not to change, what I would recommend is this. This type right here looks funny, and the reason it does is because you've got all of these caps. All of this stuff is booked and is set in caps. Book now, free this, free that, free this, and it's just interfering the flow of the type by creating too much variation between the all caps and the standard typeset. So I would recommend we don't set anything in all caps there and just let the paragraph do the talking. And then, of course, if you want to keep this layout, I would just go ahead and reduce this right here. So that's just right about there, and then a little bit bigger on the logo. Okay, all right, fantastic. But in a perfect world, I'd love to see you go ahead and swap these images out. But the long game is this: is let me know what your preference is. I'm willing to work with you throughout. So if you want to make some changes and resubmit, that's great. The one thing I will say is this should be complete by quickly here soon, because we want to use the magazine as a basis for the banner ad. Okay. Most important thing at this point is to let me know if you have any questions. All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, JD.